So hello, everyone. My name is Charnay Sanders. I serve as the program manager at COAC Detroit, and it's truly a pleasure to be connecting with you all today as part of our Nonprofit Wellbeing Series. Before we actually get engaged with the series itself, just would like to, one, hold some space to introduce COAC if anyone is unfamiliar with our work. We are a resource hub located in Detroit, Michigan. We serve 7 counties across Southeast Michigan, and we support by really being a space to connect nonprofits to each other, as well as to various resources. And we do this primarily through holding space for collaborative idea generation, sharing cross-sector resources, and providing equitable access to world-class programming and learning opportunities. Really grateful today for this space, specifically for our Nonprofit Wellbeing Series. We kicked this series off in 2019 and it has continued to grow, where we've been able to focus on looking at self-care, and specifically today with team care, but creating space for people to really have conversations on what it means to be well in our sector and how we can continue to show up and serve our communities, but not forgetting to show up first and serve ourselves by practicing self-care. And as we all know about the saying, making sure we're not pouring from the cup half empty, but making sure that we can look at the cup and fill ourselves up before moving forward to do the important work that each and every one of you are doing in your community. I'm so honored today to be able to share space with Nonprofit Wellness co-founders. I'm going to kick the mic over to them to introduce themselves and to get us started today, but I would just want to echo, please know that the session is being recorded, but we will not be recording the chat. So if there's anything shared in the chat, you can know that that will not be transcribed or sent via email. And also invite you all, some of you, thank you for turning on your cameras. Please feel free, if you would like to have your camera on, to really make it for a nice, intimate, engaging conversation. And if that's not available to you, feel free to just engage in the chat. But at this moment, I'll pass it over to Susan and Ty to get the party started. Thank you, everybody.
Who speaks first? Ty? We're always giving each other the floor. So hi, everyone. Welcome.
Good morning.
Very excited to be here. Folks will trickle on. That's great. Some of you might need to cut out or deal with emergencies. That is your role, right? As leaders in the kinds of organizations we run, we get it. That's why we're recording this information, but not in the chat box. So open up your chat box and we'll continue the conversation there. Lots of us engage in different ways. So we're going to share our screens in a second, introduce ourselves. But Ty, any housekeeping words you want to add in terms of welcoming folks before we share our screen?
No, just, good morning. I would love to see the beautiful, happy, smiling faces. It's always a plus to see everyone in the room. So please cut your camera on if you can.
Great. Well, Charnay, thank you so much for setting this up, for having a series in the first place, for having guest speakers. We won't ask you to, keep your camera on the whole time, but we do love to see folks pop in and out. And we will be doing some movement and breathing exercises today, and sometimes that's fun to do as a group as well. So without further ado, we want to introduce ourselves. We got a bit of an introduction to all of you, thanks to you signing up for this and knowing all of the many organizations that you work for. But we haven't had the chance to work with you yet. So we will share our screen so that you can get to know us a little bit, and we can kick off our very interactive training and conversation. So
Let's do it. Let's do it. So I'm Tyecia Powell, or Coach Ty, as most people like to call me. I am a native Baltimorean, an educator, a former athletic coach, and a fitness and wellness coach. I am a questioner. Susan will get into Gretchen a little bit, but I am a questioner through and through, which leads me to the work and the topic for my dissertation. I am an advocate, and I am okay with admitting that I am rumbling with anxiety, okay? Or I might say my mouth guard rumbles with my anxiety most nights. But I am passionate student of this work. I'm passionate about work, and I am mainly passionate about team wellness, hence the reason coach, right? And I'm on this journey of self-growth, teaching others to show love and sow love. This next slide that comes up, and I like to in a little cartoon, something that just exemplifies or show who we are. I'm a little silly and I think I'm a superhero, but this cartoon just exemplifies who I am.
Hold
I'll
on one
pass it over to Susan.
I am just trying to get us signed in here. Let me try and share this from my other account because I am always logged in multiple times. So there we go. I'm just going to share from here. So we already looked at
You would
this.
think after the pandemic, we all know how it works.
Oh my goodness, this is nuts. Am I okay? So over here, I'm just coming over to do it from the other computer. This is the cartoon that Ty was talking about. Thumbs up if you can hear me, Ty. And you could see excellent, the little weirdness and awesomeness that everybody brings to the table, right? And just to introduce myself, I am Susan Comfort. I've spent 30 years in nonprofits, although now I am managing urban beekeepers in a different role. So there's a picture of me just from yesterday, actually, when I was pointing out my teammate. I had to step away because they were experiencing some stress. We'll talk about that later. So I have, like many of you, worked in nonprofits. Like Ty, I'm from Baltimore. Like some of you, I'm a college basketball fan, sports fan, and I was a Tar Heel by breeding, by going to school at UNC. I'm an obliger. What's that? It's just a code word. It's vocabulary that we have, in this case, 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. It's a quiz that maybe someone, Jingting, maybe you could put that up in the chat. A free quiz that she offers to show what kind of way you respond to internal and external goals and expectations. So we can talk more about that. These are just intros, giving you clues as to who we are, right? I like yoga, Ty likes Pilates. We're both parents. We have different age groups of, caretaking that we're doing. Everybody has these things, but that's more like resume. Like you might see that stuff on LinkedIn, like the thing that Ty shared about anxiety and the thing that I struggle with around financial security and the stress that causes me. Like that's not something I'm going to put on my intro slide, but I'm going to tell you because it causes me stress. And this training is about personal stress, how we bring it to work, how it affects our work, how we can actually use team care at work to impact those stress levels. And we want you to leave even if you have to leave 30 minutes in, with tools you can use. And we hope to achieve some of the goals of the training and answers to your questions with, as little or as much as you can join us for today. We have, a full hour and 15 of content. We'll leave time for Q&A within that as well. But we just want you to know we are with you on this journey. We are struggling as humans on this journey with you. And we think that we have some tools that we've tested with a bunch of folks that will help and will help us all. And we'll also share and crowdsource information with each other. We tend in this community of nonprofits to be sort of like martyrs. I don't know if you can raise your hand or do any hands up if you or someone you know is a martyr in your family or in your organization. So I'm the kind of person that's like, oh, you okay? I'm fine. It is like cultural stuff. There's like gender stuff. There's all sorts of stuff going on with that. But that causes stress. And we're here to talk about how to deal with that kind of stress in our work cultures. So we're going to share our goals that we kind of perceived through all of this with you and how we structured this training today. And we encourage your active participation in the chat. So the first goal is to share info. Literally, we'll nerd out on some info. We'll do some practices together and we'll talk about practices, how to implement this with your team using a few tools. We jammed like 3 different tools into this presentation and we focus these on body, mind, and team. So Ty, we're going to take the second goal.
Oh, awesome. Sorry. So the second way we're going to hit our goal today is modeling an interactive training environment that honors diversity, shares experiences, and facilitates participant learning. So these are things that we hope to take away. So pay attention to the little things that we do that with your team.
Sorry, Tim, my volume wasn't up, but your audio is a little bit crunchy. I don't know if that's the computer or the room. But to get us started over in the chat box, we want to know how you like to move your body. So any other,
Can you hear me?
it's a little crunchy still. But in the chat, just everybody can open it up. However you interpret body movement, how do you like to move your body? Extra points. Yeah, and check out, folks are going to have some commonalities, right? Or there might be some common things, and maybe you could think of something kind of different, right? If you were doing this with folks in your organization, you might notice something that you didn't know before. We've got some dancers. We've got a lot of walkers. Look, Ty, there's yogis. There's hitters, kickboxer. Ooh, we've got a lot of hula hoop, roller skate. Love it. These are all body movements. There can be, even more subtle body movements, even more sporadic, like maybe it doesn't have like a sport name, Like I like to stretch in bed when I wake up. That's one of my favorite ways to stretch, like while I'm still on the mattress. You can do things in that position because of the softness that you can't do on the floor, right? That's one way I like to move my body. Any ways you like to move your body, Ty?
So I want to first check in and make sure you can hear me okay, and I do apologize.
That's better for me. Shanae has a thumbs up.
So thank you all for sharing and for putting in your different creating space is at the root of our teachings, right? So one way we do this virtually is through interactions like this, using these functions, the chat box and things like that. Think about ways that you can make your meetings and different things that you're doing more interactive, taking little breaks in there. Find ways to just pause and have this appreciative inquiry that focuses on the positive. So with that, I want a quick little story. So we're about to go into a section about your body, move your body. And one of the things that I hear people say all the time is like, going to the gym or my workout is my sacred time. And I was a strong believer in that until I met Susan. Susan threw that out the window. And we will work out together. We will do things together, right? And you know what? It has made the difference in my consistency and my workout. It is the difference between hitting that snooze button. Sorry, in a school, lights go off on an automatic timer. So it is the difference between hitting that snooze button or a text message from my colleague saying, hey, Ty, get up. I'm about to get on the Peloton. You're going with me. That matters. Having an accountability partner, whether a family, a partner, a colleague that just is on this path with you, it matters. So I remind everyone, while I love working out and I love the individual parts of working out, doing it as a team matters. It matters. All right. And movement is one of the easiest ways to model in the workplace how to get active, right? Taking walk-in meetings, inviting people to workout class, partnering with ClassPass if you have it in your state. And also, I'm going to remind you to check your insurance companies. A lot of times, a lot of these health facilities have HSA, health savings accounts and flexible spending accounts that they will let you use in these at gyms and in workout facilities. So with that, I'm gonna pass it over to Susan, and Susan's gonna explain a little more about nonprofit wellness.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for sharing about your ways of moving your body. We ask you sort of easy questions first, because we might get to some harder questions later, but this is one way that we can share just about how we move our bodies, right? You're probably going to see me stretch during this whole presentation. I encourage you to stretch, get up and turn off your camera, stretch, whatever you need to do to stay focused and present. Including, chatting things that we can respond to or that others can respond to. So the whole premise of nonprofit wellness is, I don't know if you can see our shirts, we put the we in wellness because we're all about team care. We're a group of martyrs in the nonprofit movement, and the educators are nurturers. We don't do well at self-care only, but we do well at nurturing others. So why not turn those talents on our colleagues to create team care systems and practices, maybe some policies too, right? Let's put it in the handbook, put some money towards it, but at least culture, at least practices, right? At least sharing ourselves a little bit at work so that we can build trust. So that's what we focus on, and that's what we'll talk about today, and that's the kind of the brain science behind it too. So we'll go into all of those things, and we welcome a robust Q&A, like I said. So physical health in your body. We just talked about moving your body. This first section, we're going to talk about the body and the reasons why exercise is so important. We're going to talk about then sort of transition to the mind, how the body affects the mind, how we approach mental health, and some ways that we can facilitate discussions, both safely and surface level and a little more deeply, depending on how far you've already gone with your trust building or DEIB work in the workplace. But we also want to convince you, hopefully, that red and blue make purple, right? Talking about your bodies, talking about your mental health, your minds at work, for reasons that Brene Brown wrote many books about, create the system, the culture for you to then tackle all of those thorny work problems that you have boundary issues with, and that you have role issues with, and that you don't have enough people to do all the things that you need to do at work with. You can tackle those things when you have trust on your team and when you know where people are coming from. We assert that talking about physical and mental health will help you build that trust on the team. That creates vulnerability, or it requires vulnerability, creates empathy, and that builds trust. So the kind of examples of what we mean by these physical, mental, and team things are like everything physical with your body, right? The movement, the exercise, the stretching, the sleeping, what you put in it, eating and drinking, everything you drink, hydration and intoxication, right? Mental health, how they're related. Well, how do we talk about these things with each other? How do we talk about it with ourselves or maybe our therapists? How do those things, and it's tough at work, right? There's boundaries around this stuff. How do we talk about it safely? But again, building that trust on whatever level you're at. And some people at work, you're going to talk this stuff about, right? And other people, you're not going to talk about intimate things with. That's cool. But just having some trust at work will help you build the context for these things. So feel free to put comments in the chat. It's a little bit quiet chat today. Ty and I like to interact.
Don't worry, Susan. I'm about to get going, okay?
All right,
so
great.
Here we go. Let's talk about the body, everybody. I want to start with some definitions so we are all starting at the same level here. All right, so health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just merely the absence of disease or infirmity, right? Wellness is an active, I'm going to repeat that word, active. Wellness is an active process through which people become aware of and make choices towards a more well existence. Everybody have choices here, right? So we focus on overall health, the physical, the mental, and the social / team. Right? Starting with physical, we're looking at 3 core components here: exercise or movement. Some people have a feeling about the word exercise, so I'm going to use the word movement, exercise or movement, which I'll dig into what that looks like in a second. Nutrition and rest, all of these make up how we are taking care of our bodies, right? So let's move on, Susan, to the next slide. When you think about exercise, I'm going to just say this: exercise is good for you. Movement is good for you. It gets the blood pumping. It has so many benefits as listed here. And there are many, many more benefits that are listed here. But at the core, moving your body activates a healthy blood flow, activates the mind, gets the brain fired up. It adds to your creativity. So move. Just it's going to help. You have to. So exercise. Okay, again, I know some of you don't like that word, but a list of so many ways you can get moving. And I tried to list into two categories for you. Low impact, meaning it's not as much poundage on the body. Everybody is at different levels, right? And then I have medium to high impact where, you might say, I need a little bit more. So as you're looking at this list, I want to dig into what I mean by exercise. Often we think about exercise as lifting weights or running a marathon. Those are options, but exercise and movement will look different for everyone. Everyone's on a different journey. So this list, again, is just some ideas. Exercise is also a stress reliever. So the more you're getting this movement in, it'll help with those feelings of burnout. It'll help combat some of that stress. We're not going to get rid of stress, okay? But what we can do, calm our nervous system down, okay? And Susan will get into that a little bit later. So as a fitness instructor, I'm going to give you the cheat code to working. You ready? The cheat code. Don't tell anybody that I gave you this. Work out with other people. Work out with people. That's it. That's the cheat code right there. Seriously, the people, when you have other people working out with you, they're holding you accountable. They're getting you out of the bed. They are helping you just stay accountable to consistently doing anything. We all buy those memberships and we keep paying it. Oh, I'll go tomorrow. I'll go this day. Working out with others means I'm going to put my backpack in the car. I'm going to put my workout bag in the car because I know Sharnay is going to say something when I get to work about going to the gym afterwards. I'm already going to be ready because once I go home, it's over. Once I sit down, I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to do anything. So I told you that story earlier. My colleague Ryan and I, that 6 a.m. text bothers me, but I'm so annoyed that I actually get up and get on my Peloton because he sent me that text, opposed to hitting my snooze button, right? And that matters. And it changes what we're talking about at work. So instead of us coming into work and we're talking about, reality TV or something, gossiping or anything like that, we have what I call locker room talk, right? We're talking about how sore we are, or the teacher or the instructor that just kicked our butt and different things. Now the people are listening in. Oh, what are you guys doing? We're laughing. We're talking about, the apps that we're using that's helping to keep us motivated and different things like that. We change the station on what we talk about at work. And so other people join in, and that's how we model changing our approach to movement, by getting other people involved. Have that conversation next to Susan's desk so that she's listening in, even though she doesn't want to. But listen, this is what I'm telling you. Exercise is different for everyone. How you take care of your body, how you move is going to be different. But I'm inviting you to invite someone with you. I'm going to this dance class. I'm going on this hike. I'm taking this meeting. Walk with me. We're going to bird watch while we do this. There are so many different ways that you can get movement in your day. So I'm going to pass it over actually to Susan, who is going to show you a tool that her and I use. Susan doesn't get on the Peloton with me, but Susan and I both have this tool put out on our refrigerator as a reminder of ways that other ways that we can take care of our body as a team. Susan?
Yes, we do not agree on many things, Tyecia and I. She's a questioner. I'm an obliger. She is into Peloton and spin classes. I am all about riding the bike outside, but please do not make me take another spin class, right? So we all have our differences of how we like to move our bodies and the approaches that we take. But this is science, y'all. So the immune boosters is the first tool that we want to focus on. And it's very much about your body, because the lymphatic system and the immune boosting systems that work together in our body are very much impacted by environment and what we do and what we can choose to do. So I have the pleasure of being the preceptor to the fourth cohort, currently 3 Masters of Public Health interns who, through these cohorts, have done different work with the immune boosters. And you'll hear later about the posters that we would love your feedback on that they've done, taking these to the next step. But these immune boosters, the question is, which of these have you done maybe today, or maybe like, this week so far, but maybe today, like hopefully somebody slept today, right? There's something on here, hopefully, that you practiced today. And if you wouldn't mind, just throw it in the chat while I yammer at you about the immune boosters. You might be a number or the actual thing, or maybe you want to give an example. But focusing on the science of how these things support the immune system. There's some language around saying boost or support or strengthen, but immunity is a multi-factor thing. And you don't have to eat mushrooms, Ty, but, maybe doing a combination of these other things, especially if your body is used to the other way, would actually introduce a boost to the various systems like the lymphatic system, right, that help us detoxify and boost our immunity. And of course, coming up with, endemics, pandemics, seasonal illness, the regular things that Ty's toddler brings home from their daycare. We all deal with challenges to our immune systems, and we want to be healthy with each other, especially for those immunocompromised amongst us. So there's a lot of numbers up on the chat board that folks have done already today. Wow. 7 of these are covered by some people. So amazing job. When you're avoiding things, right, it's easy to do it because you're just not doing something, right? I have to swear by cold showers, one of my favorites. I'm just at the very end of the shower for 30 to 60 seconds. So folks, this is great. And this is an example too of appreciative inquiry. We call it the other AI. This is going to help you really delve into your team and build your culture, because appreciative inquiry, there's a bunch of science behind it. We'll talk a little bit about that. But what did you do? That's an appreciative thing. We want to ask you about your accomplishment, not what do you lack or what do you want to do or what are you trying to work on, right? This is something you did. Good job. So good job, everybody.
So Susan, this is actually one of my favorite tools that we've created because it's that reminder of the things that I always forget to do, right? And believe me, if you have an accountability partner, if they're anything like Susan will bring me dishes where she mushrooms in it, knowing that I hate mushrooms, but she dice them up nice and strong, nice and small, so that I don't even know the mushrooms are in there. But that is her way of making sure I am taking care of my body. Are there things like that that you can do? A banana bread in the lunchroom at your job or different things like that. Can I send a text midday of something funny that I saw? You just don't know how much a smile, simple text can change someone's day, right? So with this, I want you to think about ways you can use this in your work. Maybe you want to create a challenge, or maybe you just want to post this on your desk as a reminder to send that funny text, to remind somebody to get up and dance. Or, how about massage yourself? I keep my tennis ball somewhere close to me and I'll just sit there and I'll just massage out. I'll do whatever I need to do just to make sure I am loose. So with that, guess what, Susan? Guess what time it is? It is time to practice. It is time to get everyone up and moving. So everybody do it. I am going to ask for this section, if you're going to participate, to turn your cameras on. The reason why I want you to turn your cameras on is because as a fitness instructor, I always want to make sure you are honoring your body and honoring how you're engaging your core. So I'm going to share some music. Give me just a couple seconds to get it together. And then I am going to get everyone up and moving. So slide back from your desk a little bit. You can do this from a chair or you can do this standing up, but just get yourself prepared, disconnect the headphones if you must, so you don't trip or trip yourself or me. And I am going to share. So how do you?
While Ty figures out the music, I'll encourage everyone to just stand up. And I'm a yoga teacher, so we're going to just stand with our feet hip width apart. If you're standing, if you're sitting, just get on the edge of the chair, like kind of your butt to the edge of the chair rather than sitting all the way back with your back at the back. So feet on the floor, butt at the edge of the chair, or feet on the floor, hip width apart. So to start, I like to introduce some space into the spine. So just breathe in and bring your arms up. Bringing your arms up actually introduces so much more capacity in your lungs. So this is a great thing to do for breathing. You might even want to go side to side while you're up there. Take a deep breath in. You might not have actually taken kind of a mindful deep breath yet today. So taking a deep breath in. Now we're going to bring those arms back down. They might be tingling a little bit by now after a few breaths and a few like upside down moments. So that actually can increase space into your spine. You can get a little taller and not shrink over time. Now we're going to go down. And Ty is the Pilates instructor. Ty, are you ready to teach the squat or should I keep going with Utkatasana? So if you go to the side, I'll let Ty jump in when she's ready. I'm just going to the side so you can see me. You're just going to squat down where your hips can be at an angle with your upper body. And maybe you're holding on to your thighs. Maybe you're bringing your arms out to the side. Maybe you're even bringing your arms up. There, she's back. The quads are the biggest muscle group, so they're going to really get activated when you challenge and engage them. So do a few squats. Ty, I'm going to mute myself to see if we can hear you.
Okay, can you hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, everyone. So did you know that the average person does about 20 squats a day just by getting up and down out of your chair, right? So like Susan was telling you, it strengthens your body, it strengthens your back, it strengthens your legs. So we're going to do that today. If you can, please just stand up. Just stand up straight. As we are doing squats today, I want you to squeeze your glutes. I want you to pull your belly button in and stand up nice and straight. We're going to start with what I call a narrow squat. Your feet are going to be together, and you're going to push your hips back and drive your chest forward and come back up and squeeze. So I like to add a little bit of music, if my computer will allow me, as we are doing this, as you're doing your squats. That jam of yours come on the radio, or on your earbuds while you're working. Just get up and do about 2 minutes of squats for yourself to that music, okay?
Or you can be
if you're recovering from an injury, you can from a chair. Maybe it's just lifting your leg, moving your arms. You get to decide what that looks like for you. So I'm gonna set a time. We're gonna do 2 minutes of different forms of squats. Okay, add a little spice to it. So a little while. All right, now if you feel good, stay down there and let's pulse it out. I really like it, so I'm gonna add a step. Let's bring it back up. Go back. 30 more seconds for me. Five more seconds. Come on, you can do it. You want to go back a step? 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Give yourselves a round of applause.
Woo! Oh my God, that was so good. Woo!
That's good. You can do this at any point. Like I told you,
Wow.
at any point during your day, you're sitting at your desk, move your chair back and just like, I need a little energy boost. I'm gonna move my legs. I'm gonna stand here. We have chair workouts that we can give you. I'm gonna move my arms up and down. I'm gonna grab my water bottle. I can do this. That movement is what I'm talking about when I talk about body movement, exercise, everything like that, to get the creative juices going. Some of you, as leaders, can start your meetings off like this, of just getting some movement. You don't have to be a fitness instructor. It could be as simple as, okay, everyone start by rolling out their shoulders. Movement for people that sit at the desk is key, because you get tense, you get stuck behind this computer, and you forget to move. One strategy that I'm going to give everyone, I wish, one strategy I'm going to get everyone, I changed my computer to read the time to me on the hour. You can also do this with a phone or an alarm, but every hour my computer will be like, it's 11 o'clock. That's a reminder to get up and move, whether that's walking to get some water. I might do some arm stretches while I'm walking to get some water, going to the bathroom, but it breaks up my day so that I am not stuck behind the computer and letting my body tense up during the day. I'm going to pass this over back to Susan while I take a quick sip of water, and she's going to go into the mind section.
I love that example. And as another example, I shared in the chat, I lead a little 5-minute stretch, and, even the partners of my coworkers come back and they're like, now my partner is stretching every morning because of you. He's like, they're like doing the Susan stretches. And I was like, this is a 3,000-year-old tradition. I have nothing to do with it, but yeah, just little things that you can do, and everybody brings their own to the workplace, their own preferences, their own little skills or strategies. Highlight them, lift them up and be like, yay, Ty, well, Ty might not have the candy bowl, but somebody has the candy bowl, the sugar-free candy bowl. Somebody has the nut bowl. Somebody likes to do stretches. Somebody will lead the cycling club. Somebody will tell you about great mocktail recipes. Somebody else will tell you about their home brew. Like, there's so many different things that people bring to the office that have to do with these wellness topics. Why not talk about them, lift them up, and then that will create, again, that structure, that trust, that camaraderie to deal with tricky team issues. So we're going to transition to the mind. And it's very physical. So that's the trick, is that body is mind, mind is body. But let's just take a deep breath. Maybe think about a tree that you know and love. We talk about trees a lot. The roots of self-care, the roots that you have to draw from. If you were a tree, you would have to draw from your roots. If you were a tree, you would breathe differently. Take another deep breath. You would breathe in the carbon dioxide that humans create. You would breathe out oxygen. We do it the opposite. But there are a lot of similarities between humans and trees. We're going to get to the coolest similarity in our team section. But just to go into mind, and it's 11:44, I'm cognizant of time. Ty knows I have to be, because in this section, I like to talk about the nervous system. So the reason we focus so much on breath is that it is the language of your nervous system. Hablo español, pero mi cuerpo no. Like, you can speak English, Spanish, any language, your body is not going to speak that language. So if you say, calm down, your body doesn't understand that language. Your body does understand breathing. So this slide is the kind of thing that, if you don't remember anything else, like, practice this, because if you just equalize your breathing and your pauses, it actually brings your body to a stasis, a more balanced state. Let's just try it, because we just did a big squat break. Your heart might be still pounding a little bit. Like, let's try and bring our bodies back to that equal state. And I'll just count for you and we'll do it together. So everybody just breathe out so that you have this capacity to go ahead. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold it, 2, 3, 4. Now breathe out, 2, 3, and hold that breath out. And ready, breathe in again, 1, 2, 3, and breathe, or hold it and breathe out and pause. And so continuing on your own, maybe it's 5 counts. You can do that. 2, breathe, pause, honor the pause. Keep breathing. You can equalize things, or you can rev things up or slow things down. Your body's an engine. The breath is the fuel. So if you lengthen the inhalation, it's called a yawn. You have bringing a lot of oxygen into the body, giving your muscles a lot to work with, letting it all out. That's a yawn. If you lengthen the exhalation, you will relax more. That is just the way your nervous system speaks. So a lot of folks practice 4-7-8 breathing at night. Breathe in for 4, hold it for 7, breathe out for 8. My kids used to sort of, let me see if I can get to 12. I'm like, go for it. You know, like the longer you breathe out, the more you're going to relax. Trick. So breathing is just the way your nervous system speaks. And so let me geek out for like a minute and a half on the nervous system, see if I can keep it to that. We'll do more in Q&A if you'd like. But this is my favorite thing, is just like looking at the difference between how we manage stress in our lives and how we do that as a team. So it's the individual stress or individual nervous system reactions, but then also how we support each other as a team. So, I love that. See, Charnay has practiced box breathing. So some of you are already familiar with some of these practices. So the 3 states of your nervous system to talk about. One is hopefully the state you're in now after our breathing and our trust building together for the last 45 minutes. Hopefully you're in an optimal state of arousal and you can learn. You are not too revved up. You're not too going to sleep. You're safe and social. You're befriending us. You are resting or digesting maybe your snack or your lunch. You can learn here. Your brain actually works here. This next state is not so productive from a learning capacity because your brain just can't learn when you're in fight or flight. But it is really great at saving your life, this state. It's a really great one, and we don't want to get rid of it. We just want to learn to kind of read the cues and figure out how our body reacts to cortisol being jacked up in our body, how our body reacts to adrenaline, what we can do to complete that stress cycle. Emily and Amelia Nagoski have a book called Burnout, Completing the Stress Cycle, which gives you some great science for that. But basically it's called going up the ladder. It's the polyvagal theory of the nervous system. If you're into this stuff, you might have heard of this already. You could look it up. We have resources. And so the trick is recognizing when you're in fight or flight, first of all, because it's not always obvious. We don't have tigers chasing us anymore. So when we're in fight or flight, and then how do we go back up the ladder? How do we complete our stress cycle? How do we get back to that safe and social place? So the third state is freeze. Sometimes people lump it together with fight or flight. It's actually not the same. Fight or flight is the sympathetic nervous system. Freeze is the dorsal vagal parasympathetic nervous system. It's different, but it has the effect of numbing you, freezing you, literally, physically, emotionally, one or the other, both freeze. It is hypoarousal. You definitely can't learn there. And hopefully it is because this is usually a trauma state. So hopefully this is rare in your life, hopefully. But freeze is a absolute life-saving response, just like fight or flight. It is much rarer, hopefully, than fight or flight. We're going to go into fight or flight every day, maybe, probably for something. And if we're a paramedic or we have a fight or flight or teacher, like Ty works in middle school, you're going to get triggered, somewhere in fight or flight. If you are serving population and community where you're getting triggered or you're experiencing secondary trauma, you're going to go to fight or flight. So the whole idea with us in the service and education community is, how are we reacting to ourselves? How are we supporting each other? Because our cortisol goes up. Cortisol is super well studied. You don't have to draw blood. You just do saliva. They've studied cortisol out the wazoo. If you're into this, Google it. Super fascinating. Basically, we know that high cortisol causes a bunch of health problems. So like Tyecia said, we know exercise solves a bunch of problems. Well, we know that stress or high cortisol causes a bunch of problems. Doesn't mean you should eliminate stress from your life. Impossible. Not in the work we do. What it means is you have to complete your stress cycle. You have to go, yep, there's another house fire. Luckily, I'm a firefighter and I know how to put out the fire, and then I know how to complete my stress cycle, and my cortisol is going to go back down. Probably a bad example because firefighters have increased rates of lung problems, but the stress isn't what kills them, is the point. They know how to manage that, hopefully. So we have a whole training about resilience. Tycia's like, she's going off the rails. We have a whole training about the science of resilience and why it's how you manage your stress that is the key. Kelly McGonigal has great TED Talks about it. That is the key, not eliminating your stress, managing and completing your stress cycle. All right, Ty, please take over the mic.
Susan, I always love how excited you get when you talk about the mind-body connection. It's pretty funny. But let's do a practice with the body scan, everyone. Stop it periodically throughout your day to do a quick body scan. Helps you to reflect and draw attention to what your body is telling you. Like I told you, I have so many bells and whistles that go off. I think this is the life of a teacher. I have alarms. I have my computer telling me what time it is. But I use that to, again, get me up, to make me do something differently. Sometimes just taking our eyes away from the screen for a second, can help get our minds going on solving that problem, fixing that thing that we're trying or that we're working on, or finishing a project that we're working on. So let's practice this right now. A good way to check in on yourself. So sit in a comfortable position. I'm not going to make you stand this time. Sit in a comfortable position, whatever that means for you. Lean back in your chair if you want. I invite you to close your eyes. If not, that's okay too. But just take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Do this a few times. And when you're ready, I want you to draw your attention to parts of your body, starting with your head. And I'm going to lead you through a couple questions that I want you to ask yourself. How am I feeling mentally in this moment? How do my shoulders feel? Are they loose? Are they tense? How am I feeling in my heart? Am I holding on to something heavy? As you breathe in and out, I want you to continue down to your stomach. Maybe you're a little hungry. Your back. Have I been sitting too long? How are your legs feeling? Even your ankles, your feet. What is your body telling you in this moment? Take another inhale and exhale. And gently come back to the screen. Too often, we ignore or we run away, even suppress what our body is telling us. I'm going to encourage you and I'm going to challenge you to try leaning into it instead, sitting with those feelings, stopping to get something to eat. Guess what? The work is still going to be there. I promise you, I know. Take a few seconds just to check in on yourself. Is creating that space for you to listen to your body and address it instead of trying to run away or suppress it, because we all heard that analogy. The more you try to suppress it, like that beach ball pushing it underwater, it's just going to blow up in our face, right? Lean into it, sit with it, talk to it, address it to help calm that nervous system down, to help you continue with your day. So with that, I invite you to take one more deep inhale and exhale. And Susan's going to go over one of our nonprofit wellness tools that help us draw our attention back to our mind and really address some of the things that we're walking into the building with.
So this is the Stressor and Resilience Scorecard, and someone asked a question in the chat, but for those watching the recording, all of our tools are available for free. Most of them are bilingual as well, Spanish, English, and they're on the nonprofitwellness.org website. So you can download this. Don't worry about that now. Like, you can always download it after. And you don't have to read this right now, but I just wanted to show you the structure and describe how we got here before we just practice one little part of it together. And then we'll discuss and debrief in terms of like maybe what that brought up or what challenges you might see with this kind of tool, because it is our sort of chewiest tool, the tool that you can either keep at the surface level or really go deep with. So this tool was actually developed based on something you all might be very familiar with, the ACE scorecard, which is an under 18 measure of childhood trauma, and the resilience questionnaire, which is kind of like the flip side of that ACE questionnaire or ACE scorecard. And this is the adult sort of version, like what we deal with when we're not at work. Like, we all have stressful jobs, sure. We're not talking about that. Today, we're talking about the stress you deal with in your life as a human and what identities you embrace or are perceived for, as a human in your community, and then what circumstances you're going through as a human, because there are a lot of circumstances we all go through that are temporary, not part of our identity. It's just a circumstance that happened to us, or that we that is happening now in our life. So instead of having a score, we decided to both measure the stress that these identities or circumstances bring, but also the opportunities for growth and joy. You know, I've experienced divorce that caused a lot of stress. That also was a direct catalyst for a lot of growth and joy in my life. That's on a circumstance list. On the identity side, you know, more different or contextual issue is sexual identity. I am a member of the LGBTQ community, and that has not caused me actually very much stress or challenge in my life, but it has caused me a lot of growth and joy. However, that's interrelated with other identities that I have, because as a white woman in America, like, I have certain privileges as a bisexual woman that I wouldn't have if I were a differently presenting member of the LGBTQ community, or if I were in a different community. I live in Washington, D.C. We're so welcoming and tolerant and diverse here. So this tool is very contextual, right? You all have been grappling with issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in your organizations, in your communities, in our places of worship, in our families, everywhere we are dealing with this stuff. And so we recognize both the power, but also like kind of the risks, right, of introducing this kind of tool. And we want to help you be both trauma aware as well as like boundary kind of respectful. So we're just going to do a quick exercise using a Zoom poll that Charnay hopefully set up for us. So Ty, why don't you add your reflections on the scorecard, and you can set us up for the poll.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing that, Charnay. So what I want you to do is you're going to self-rank yourself. And if I'm correct, Charnay, this is anonymous. So, I'm not going to, get the results of who's saying this, but I want you to self-rank yourself in these categories. We all walk into work, like I said, with many different circumstances going on already, and that's okay. The key is, how do we acknowledge them and lean into them? As the results start to come in, I want you to pay attention to the things that people around you or in the workplace are dealing with, and remind yourself, hey, I'm actually not alone in this. I'm not the only one going through some of these things. And again, it is okay. It shows that we are human. And guess what? Other people may actually have some pretty good ideas or tools or resources that they've used to help them in these circumstances that they can share with you. True story, going through an adoption with my child, I kept it private. I kept it secret, but I started talking to people. I found a free lawyer. I found support groups just by talking to the people in my workplace about it. I got free babysitters. So like, even though there are some things, we're kind of like, I'm not sure if it's a time and place in the workplace for this. Like I said, taking that walk and sharing some of your story with someone could actually be the thing that's needed to not only build that relationship, but also get yourself some resources and some calm about the situation. So as the results are coming in, again, just pay attention that we all are going through things, but how are we acknowledging it, breathing through it, leaning into it, and getting a little vulnerable sometimes and saying, hey, Charnay, you have a minute? Can we chat over here? Can we have a working lunch, or something like that to, again, bond you, but also it is amazing the resources that people have around you that you can tap into.
Maybe Charnay can chime in with some of the results. I'm seeing it on my other screen, so hopefully Charnay, can you see it as well? Like 50% are dealing with an unexpected life event. 40% of you are grappling with relationship challenges of some sort, right? 40% dealing with like occupational stress that is circumstantial, right? If we had a different occupation, we would have different stress. So that is not necessarily part of your identity, although in the nonprofit and education world, our work often is part of our identity, right? And that's part of that martyr thing, that nurturing thing, that superhuman thing. We do actually get wrapped up in our identity of workers, whatever that work is. And so I just ask you to, examine that. There's not good or bad. It just is, right? So I think the host is sharing the poll. So this kind of anonymous, multiple choice, you're not limited to a box. It's also just a seed planter. Ty and I talk a lot about those trees and seeds and fungi. We want people to just start thinking about it. Maybe they're not ready to talk about it, but they could start thinking about it or reframing it for themselves. People notice what you say and do, even if they don't participate. We've kind of asked you to participate today. We've a little bit cajoled you into participating. You had options, of course. But we'll ask you at the end also to participate in a survey because we want your feedback. We want to continue this conversation. And by just opening the door, just saying the words intoxicants at work, that's open. That might be forbidden in your culture, or maybe you're a happy hour culture, right? And that's okay to talk about, or even use company funds to buy alcohol. Well, maybe we should have a conversation about that, where you can find out, where your team is on certain things and use talking about it with these external tools, right, to build that trust and to open the door to even other conversations that are related. Maybe that's why somebody has to telework, because they're dealing with housing insecurity, or they're a caretaker for their parents, or they're dealing with relationship issues that they just didn't feel safe talking about at work. But if you know these things, then you can offer a lot more support, and people feel supported and then are so much more able to get their job done. Anyway, we could yammer about this forever, but that's the idea behind the Stressor Scorecard. I would love to hear your ideas in the chat. We're going to drive home some of these team participation, facilitation, and ways that you can bring these tools back to your team. And one more tool that we have to present to you, but this is just a glimpse, not even dealing with the identity stuff, right? Maybe you talk with your DEIB consultants about how you might bring a tool that really has the lens on wellness into your identity conversations, right? Or your awareness or empathy building conversations, because we're all human. We all have the same nervous system, female, male, old, young, black, white. We all got the same nervous system. So let's learn about it. Let's use that as the neutral point for conversation. That's our idea anyway. So let's just take a deep breath, do a quick scan. That might have brought up some emotion, some of the things that you were thinking about, looking at that list, some of the secondary trauma that you might be experiencing from your own work or your own family or friends' commitments, right? Breathe. Your breath is your free tool. I sometimes go a whole half day before I breathe, remember that I'm a breathing human, right? Whatever you need to do to remind yourself of that. We put slides in every deck, don't forget to breathe. And then we talk about breathing. And this image, again, I want you to remember it. Why is it a parachute? Because I'll just give you the answer because we want to keep going. Because it represents the parasympathetic nervous system, the ventral vagal. The parasympathetic nervous system is the parachute that will save your life, right? That will bring your calm level back. So the parasympathetic relaxation mode is more related to that safe and social rest and digest mode. And we can manage that through breathing. It's not to say that complex mental health issues can be solved by different breathing. No, of course not. But exercise is a cure for, slight depression. Breathing is a way to manage the nervous system and therefore anxiety, therefore other things. So these are tools, and the more tools you have, the more ready we'll be for all of the problems since Audre Lorde's time to current day of Adrienne Marie Brown, who has deep Detroit roots and love and Michigan roots and love as well. So take a moment, take a deep breath and read those quotes.
You know, Susan, my students always say, Coach Ty, why are you telling me to breathe? I am breathing, you know, but I tell them all the time, because I want you to reflect back on the I. I want you to bring it back to yourself. I want you to calm your breathing down, because you are in control of the situation. And even though you're in a classroom, you're dealing with your teachers and stuff, the I within the we is very important. And that's what we do here. We take great pride in aiming to focus on the I and the we. You know, we have to look at, what am I bringing to the situation? How am I changing the situation or setting the tone of any meeting, any situation? Many of you are leaders in your organization. You have the ability to first reflect on you, and then what you exude outwards, others will follow. Others will follow. You're a leader for a reason. So I want you thinking about, as you're leaving here, and write these questions down if you can. What does my personal wellness journey feel like? What does my personal journey look like? Because if I'm like, my personal journey sucked, you're exuding that out, you know, so you have to take it inward and see, hey, I do need to do this. You know, turn that mirror on yourself first. And that changes, that transcends an organization. If you look at the I within the we do this work together. And this is why I like this quote. It's just that reminder that, you know, sometimes this wellness journey can feel like warfare. You know, it's you versus you. And that's one of the hardest places to be. But there are so many resources and so many things you can do that changes your environment and that changes the workplace. So as we go into the team, I'm gonna pass it over to Susan, because we're really going to dig into this team aspect and bring it all home, bring it all together on everything that we've given you that addresses the I, also ways you address the we. So yeah, Susan and I like to insert these like funny comic relief moments. This is just also something that I want to add with everyone, or tell everyone to do. In movies, when emotions get too high or things start to happen, movies tend to add comic relief, or they add some way to break it up. This is something you should do at meetings. Pay attention to the room. Read the room. If it's getting a little stressful in there, a little tense or anything, add a comic relief, add a breath break, add something in, orchestrate or create these moments within your meetings. It's not going to take away from the meeting, you know, just to give a little break in some of the information that you're giving. And with that being said, Susan has one of my favorite videos queued up, I think, ready to go to introduce teamwork.
Yep. So I'm going to mute myself unless that means that you can't hear the video, but hopefully this will work.
Ground beneath our feet tells a different.
Okay, there we go.
Trees may look like solitary individuals, but the ground beneath our feet tells a different story. Trees are secretly talking, trading, and waging war on one another. They do this using a network of fungi that grow around and inside their roots. The fungi provide the trees with nutrients, and in return, they receive sugars. But scientists have found this connection runs far deeper than first thought. By plugging into the fungal network, trees can share resources with each other. The system has been nicknamed the Wood Wide Web. It's thought that older trees, fondly known as mother trees, use this fungal network to supply shaded seedlings with sugars, giving them a better chance of survival. Those trees that are sick or dying may dump their resources into the network, which might then be used by healthier neighbours. Plants also use fungi to send messages to one another. If they're attacked, they can release chemical signals through their roots, which can warn their neighbours to raise their defences. But like our internet, the Wood Wide Web has its dark side too. Some orchids hack the system to steal resources from nearby trees. And other species, like the black walnut, spread toxic chemicals through the network to sabotage their rivals. Arboreal cybercrime aside, scientists are still debating why plants seem to behave in such an altruistic way. The hidden network creates a thriving community between individuals. When you're next in woodland, you might like to think of trees as part of a big superorganism, chatting, and swapping information and food under your feet.
So that's an example, that's just an example of the tree metaphors we like to make, right? If you are nurtured by the roots of your own self-care, what you sleep, eat, do to your body, etc., then the leaves and branches of your tree are really resilient to the winds that blow in life. And then increasing your resilience, of course, will increase your strength, just like trees. But on the team level, if we look at that forest, that biodiverse, healthy forest, and what are the elements of a biodiverse, healthy forest? It's not a monocrop tree farm, right? It's not a highly pesticided, chemically managed kind of area, right? It's an area that values diversity because of the strength that biodiversity brings. It's an area where trees are sharing resources, ideally, because they have room to their roots to interconnect. You can keep going with the metaphors, right? Who are the fungi? Where are the funders? There's the sun and the water of a forest that impacts the health of the forest. But if we don't think about the forest or the trees, if we don't think about the team and only focus on self-care, then yeah, you might have healthier people walking in the door, but they're not sharing with each other and trusting each other enough to deal with the thorny issues once they're inside the office. So rather incorporate those wellness, those, roots and, wellness practices into somehow, even just conversation. You don't have to go biking together, but even just into conversation. And that will bring about, we hope, we theorize, we've seen more vulnerability, empathy, trust. Google did a research project, I believe it was called Aristotle, where they talked about the 5 key dynamics of teamwork. And the first one on the list, check it out. Can we take risks on this team without feeling insecure or embarrassed? That's the kind of definition of psychological safety. You want your team members to be able to feel like they can take risks with each other without feeling insecure or embarrassed. And that psychological safety will catapult the performance of teams. Google studied it, it must be true, right? But those other 4 things, dependability, structure and clarity, meaning of work, impact of work. You as leaders have some impact on those 5 things. But again, as wellness, advocates, as leaders ourselves, Tyecia and I are really passionate about that psychological safety part. And you might go, well, but Susan, how is talking about challenging issues like our racial identity at work going to bring about more psychological safety? And in this day and age, it's challenging, yes, of course, but like I did anti-oppression work in the 90s. It was challenging back then, it's challenging today, and we are always going to be grappling with this, right? So we have to build culture with equity at the forefront. And we talk about wellness equity. How do we share resources for wellness that recognizes the stuff we bring in the room, right? Or the stress we experience at work? Maybe certain jobs that have more stress should have more wellness dollars assigned to them. Maybe some people who have a higher stressor scored on their scorecard should get more wellness dollar. What's the equitable approach to wellness, to teamwork, to supporting each other psychologically, safely, and increasing all of those things that make teams effective. So another tool, the third tool and the final tool, and then we're going to open it up. This is a bingo card. Everybody hopefully understands bingo. I don't have to explain bingo, but there are many things. You can do 5 in a row, you can do postage stamp, corners, lots of bingos. Anyway, these are wellness, there's 8 of them. Again, everything's free on the resources page. There's 4 in English, 4 in Spanish. They're focused on the sensory. They are focused on quick things you can do, hopefully at work. Doesn't take long, different senses. Again, don't put all, there's 8 of them. So they're all different. So you've already done some of these things maybe today, or you could challenge yourself to do something new, or you could ask your friend, what's a K-pop dance? Or I don't understand what this means. What is an ACV shot? And somebody go, oh, apple cider vinegar. I love apple cider vinegar. And then you have an ACV buddy, right? So there's all sorts of things you can do with bingo. And because we want to crowdsource, I'm going to ask you all to put in the chat something that you might do if you had wellness-oriented bingo cards on your team. You could also give an idea about the immune boosters cards if you'd really like to, the 2 of the 3 tools we've talked about today. But let's see what ideas come from the room. See if anybody's still awake, Ty.
So, Susan, I don't know where this started, but at some point, I think, society made it like work has to be this stuffy place. There's no room for fun and different things like that. We spend way too many hours at work for it not to be fun, to not talk to the people around us. I spend more time at work than I do at home with my partner. So I do have to make this fun. I do have to find different ways to talk to the people around me. And I get it. I understand as a leader, my mentor told me a long time ago that leadership can be a very lonely place. You have to have this like titanium shield around you and different things like that. However, let's flip this on its head. What if I did walk in a meeting and say, hey guys, I don't have all the answers. I hired all of you because I knew collectively we could do this work together. I have a team for a reason. I don't have the answer. We're going to come up with one together. What if you walked in the room and just like, I'm not having a good day? Do you understand how that changes things? It makes it okay for other people to be like, well, I'm not okay either. How can I support you? The attention just went off of them and they want to support you. And it changes things, right? So I want to give you a few minutes as we're coming down to an end. I know we've been giving you a lot of information, but I really want you to think about what are some ways, jot them down real quick. What are some ways I can implement movement breaks, breath breaks, bingo cards, immune boosting, that Baltimore accent, this list? How can I incorporate these things? Then I want you to take it one step further. I want you to pull out your calendar right now and calendar in when I'm going to implement that. Friday is going to be wellness day for my team. That's when I have my team meeting. I'm going to implement bingo cards by the end of the meeting. Just put it in your calendar as that reminder to go ahead and start. Don't sit there and just think about it, write all my ideas down. Put it in your calendar right now and say, or a post-it note or write it on your whiteboard, I'm going to implement this on this day at this time.
So there's a great couple ideas in the chat. I put one in and Cynthia shared, and there's some other ideas around the cards. You can, do little competitions or prizes. Doesn't have to be prizes you buy. It can be honor prizes, or people get the hour off, or some kind of prize that is cheap. But other things that you can do are just ask questions, right, about the content. These are some questions you could ask about the scorecard. And that really, what one you might choose depends on where you are with that group, right? In these discussions, where the group is with each other. You're not going to launch into this Stressor scorecard on day one, hour one, but you might get there after you've done some other work, right, around either DEIB or around wellness, et cetera. So there are just ideas. And here's some ways, like that Ty and I have hopefully modeled for you today during this training, to remember, like, this is the why behind the what. Like, this is why we did what we did and why we chose to do what we did with you. And we love that on virtual trainings because we're all equal in the same box. But we get to like push each other out of comfort zones still. We get to like be safe and turn off our cameras, or push each other out of comfort zones. We get to do some different things and introduce some information, and then people can go Google it after the meeting and they will grow, right? So we encourage you to, do some of these shake up the meeting things, like do some of these conversation starting things, because your team will thank you for it later, hopefully. But also because in this work, many of us are working with traumatized populations. We are traumatized ourselves, or we experience secondary trauma. And Resmaa Menakem is another important leader in this work. Many of you probably know their work through My Grandmother's Hands. And we take a moment to read this. We have to be settled in order for our nervous systems to be able to deal with other folks who are maybe not settled. So hopefully these tools that we talked about and practiced today are both a deepening of your innate bodily knowledge that you already have about yourself, but also an introduction to maybe some new practices or tools or concepts. They're all the same concepts, prana, chi, same thing, different cultures, right? Different concepts and practices that we can adopt to help close our stress cycle and introduce more wellness practices into our culture. So these links will drop into the chat if you want to open them up now and do them later, or just do them now. But we do want to open it up for Q&A and more discussion. But these are posters that we have not yet released to the world. They're not on our resources page. There's a breathing group of 9 posters, and there's an immunity building group of 17 posters based on the 12 immune booster links, and we would love your feedback. And so as a thank you, we're going to send you electronically a copy of all of the posters. And hot tip, the immunity ones are co-branded with COACT as our little gesture, and thank you to COACT for bringing us today, and that way you can also hopefully be in touch with each other, and we can create another series of posters next year based on all of the wellness tools that you're going to bring back, because we love for all of this to be sort of community driven. Ty, let me go ahead and drop those links in, but anything else you want to say about the wellness posters?
Yeah, so I want to let you guys know we created these posters because we like to speak to the subconscious. Sometimes you have to speak to people's subconscious. So by strategically placing these posters around my school building, it has helped remind people to do certain things. So like I put one at the water fountain where people are filling up their water bottle. It's in their direct eyesight. So it's like that reminder to breathe. They're reading it, they're seeing it multiple times. They're going to eventually start doing it. We have it right next to the microwave. That's somewhere where people are a lot, right? By a bathroom mirror. Everyone looks at the bathroom mirror as they're washing their hands. Think about strategic places that you can place these posters so that you are speaking to their subconscious mind. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is all of the strategies, things we introduced to you today. It changes the team structure and the process. And our aim with all of these things is to decrease stress. Obviously, we can't get rid of it. Decrease stress and hopefully prevent burnout. And we're trying to help you look for different ways or be creative in the way you engage with your team. But I want you to remember this one thing. This starts with you. It starts with you. You have the ability to start a movement by being the model. If you model setting boundaries, if you model no emails after a certain time, bring in a healthy lunch, others will follow your lead. Trust that process. That's it for me, Susan.
So we want to take maybe questions that you have. You can put them in the chat. You can bring yourself off mute. The questions, unless we stop the recording, will be recorded if you take yourself off mute, or you can put them in the chat. We have a few minutes. There might be questions about these materials. You are welcome to obviously to download the tools. This is the personal stress prescription, which is also on our site. You can practice the power pose for this last minute, which is a great practice as well. And that's our Beyonce page. Or you can email, call, whatever. But we would love to hear your questions or comments. And thank you for the thanks and the emojis that are in the chat as well.